Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good morning. Good morning, Charm TV. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City proceedings will now begin. Please take this opportunity to turn off or mute all electronic devices. The board is now in session. Today, we are hearing 3 protests of liquor license renewals in accordance with sections 4-406 and 12-805 of the Maryland Alcoholic Beverages and Cannabis article. The board must hold a hearing if they receive a protest in the applicable time frame that is signed by at least 10 individuals who are residents, real estate owners, or commercial tenants who are not holders of or applicants for a license, and who are located in the immediate vicinity of the licensed premises. To hear and determine a protest filed against a license renewal, the board shall consider only issues with respect to a specific complaint as to the operation of the licensed premises and may not consider zoning issues. Our very first case is in regards to David Stivelman, contract purchaser, 2 East Wells Street, who holds a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. All those who wish to participate in this case, please come forward.
All right, good morning, everybody. So we're going to do this in an organized way so that we can take it and give everybody an opportunity, but without repeating everything over and over again. All those who may be testifying in this matter, please raise your right hands and be sworn.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I can ask them, if you do step up to the microphone to speak, if you can state your name and then spell it for the record.
Everybody understand that? Okay, so we have a protest that was filed by Tara McNulty on behalf of the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association. Is she present?
Actually, Your Honor, if I may, I believe the protest was filed by residents of that association. That cover letter from Tara McNulty indicates support of their right to file it, but it also indicates that the association was not initiating the protest.
Okay, so then there are specific things from residents. Joshua, Becca, are these residents present?
Some of them are.
And you
Okay. Well, who's going to speak on behalf of the protesters? Well,
what's your
I can
name?
only take one at a time, so who's going to start?
I'm going to start.
Come on up to the microphone, please. Give us your name and spell it for the record, please.
Caitlin Clarkson, Kaitlyn. Do you need the spelling of Clarkson?
Okay, so to begin with, the protest has to be filed by 10 individuals who live in the immediate vicinity of the licensee's operation. You've submitted a signed document by 10 individuals claiming that they are residents of the 1900 block of Light Street. Can you verify that for me?
I do not have the petition in front of me, but I can verify that each signatory is a resident of the 1900 block.
And where is that in relation to the licensed facility?
It is about a block away. So if you're going down Light Street and you pass Wells, that is our block. We're 12 houses. But if you make a right on Wells, you'll have the facility.
Okay. And the documents that I reviewed indicated that they raised 5 specific complaints. I'm going to ask you about each of those. The first had to do with traffic issues. Is that one of the complaints that's ongoing?
Yes, sir.
One had to do with trash.
Yes, that is still ongoing.
One had to do with pre- and post-gaming activities.
Yes.
One had to do with reckless and stunt driving.
Yes.
And another had to do with fights.
Yes, unfortunately, all are still ongoing.
Now, are you all going to be able to testify personally to those issues?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's start with number 1. Tell me what you know about the traffic issues.
Sure, and if I will be candid, we were planning on speaking about different issues in turn.
That's fine, we can take, whoever wants to speak about traffic, I just don't want to hear it over and over, so.
Of course.
One person on each, so.
Yeah, if I may begin, I would like to introduce the block just briefly, because we're all Baltimore residents, I assume. And part of what makes Baltimore great is the community and the good neighbors. And I am not a Baltimore native, and Baltimore is a daunting place to move to. and you fall in love with Baltimore because of the neighbors and the good neighbors. So our block is 12 houses. There's about 26 people. We know each other's names. We have each other's numbers. We participate in the community associations. We pick up trash. We help each other. We help the people that come to our block. You know, we're good neighbors. We expect the restaurants and the businesses in our vicinity to also be good neighbors. So the reason why we're here today is unfortunately because Poppy Cuisine is being bad neighbors, and we would like to hold them accountable. So as to the parking, I personally have gone into Poppy's to talk about the parking issues. Unfortunately, they do not have a handle on their double parking out front. They do not have a handle on where their patrons park, and it's causing a lot of issues for pedestrians
Can I
and
stop
for
you for a second?
drivers. Of course.
Is there any parking provided?
I do believe there is parking provided in the parking garage next to the restaurant. Unfortunately, there are not enough parking spots, so the patrons often come to park in front of our houses. And we recently, it's been such a problem, we had to petition the city to permit the parking spots in front of our houses.
Okay. And so do they have some obligation? I mean, what's your contention with respect to the parking? What should they be doing?
So when I went in and talked to one of the employees, they had said that they hired a security guard to manage the double parking out front. So whether or not they have a legal obligation to do something about the double parking, I don't know, but they've undertaken that responsibility and they've fallen short. The security guard, for whatever reason, the armed security guard that they've hired to handle their parking situation talks to the Uber drivers instead of corralling them along. And it's a very narrow road and there's parking on both sides. When you have one car stopped, the buses can't get by. That's a city bus route. The cars can't get by and there's no sidewalk. So you have pedestrians crossing, you have cars double parked. It's a dangerous situation. I've personally almost gotten into accidents several times coming to or from work, and we've asked Poppy's to handle it, and they haven't.
So these are not people who are pulling up with blinkers on for long periods of time. These are mostly Uber drivers who are pulling up to release passengers and taking up the double parking?
I think it's both. It's people unloading, waiting for people to come out, and then it's Uber Eats and Uber drivers, excuse
So
me.
as I said, we're going to do this one at a time. Want to tell me anything else about parking?
No, I don't think so.
Mr. Woolman, do you have some questions about what she said so far?
No questions at this time, thank you.
All right, thanks. Who wants to talk about the trash issue? And can you tell us your name, please?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Pam, P-A-M. Last name is Kurowski, K-U-R-O-W-S-K-I.
Okay, and you live in this same block?
I do, yes.
All right, tell us about the trash.
So the trash is, we live in the city, so we understand there's always going to be some trash. There's always going to be, unfortunately, some rodents when you have, restaurants around and things like that. But it has increased substantially in the last couple of years since, adding another restaurant. Initially, there were issues with, I think, not adequate dumpster for refuse outside the restaurant. I believe that they did address that, and it has been much better. So we appreciate that, but it does continue to be a problem. So we still have, additional trash that accumulates on Wells Street and also on Light Street. In fact, my boyfriend and I have lived in our home. We own our home, and we've lived there for 6 years. Since we moved in, he has consistently picked up trash once a week. He goes out with a bucket and a grabber and picks up trash once a week on our block and the surrounding area. Since the restaurant came in, and keep in mind there's 2 other restaurants there as well, but since adding this 3rd restaurant, he's out there at least 2 or 3 times a week consistently with a 5-gallon bucket that he fills up 2 or 3 times. I mean, this is
just
a
so I'm
lot of
clear,
trash.
These are not bags of trash that are sitting out there. This is loose trash?
It says loose trash, litter. Yeah. So of course, with additional, so this is why he's picking it up obviously because we care about our block and our homes, but also because it does bring more rodents to the area. And in fact, earlier this week, the city came out to bait rat traps in the back of some of our homes because the problem has become so much greater than it was in the past. We've never had to do that. So that's a big issue
Okay.
with the trash, yeah.
Mr. Walm, you have questions about the trash?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Okay. Who wants to talk about this pre- and post-gaming?
I could continue to speak about
Okay.
that, sure. So, so this is, of course, something that we might expect to occur, say, at Cross Street up the street, where you have, kind of an understood party area where people are going out in the evening. There's bars and restaurants everywhere. The neighborhood is really set up for that. They have extra police patrolling. They have street sweeping at the end of the weekends, and, so people are dealing with trash and things like that, and also, in case there's any situations that get out of hand, you have police there. We don't have that in our neighborhood because it's really a residential neighborhood, and then we just have a couple restaurants right there. So we consistently, particularly on the weekends, have people, hanging out either inside or outside of their cars, drinking. This happens before, we see people go into the restaurant, and when they come back out of the restaurant, often that continues.
So
The,
they're consuming alcohol on the street.
yes.
And does anybody call the police about that?
We have done many 311s, but you may notice that there are no 311s as part of the protest. That's because the requests we make are generally about trash, about, public drinking and things like that, and they're really not, they're not tagged to the liquor board because it's really a different kind of issue. So we've never tagged it that way.
But do the police come when you call?
Sometimes. And unfortunately, when they do, as soon as you hang up 911, people are alerted. You might have heard of the Citizen app. People are alerted by this app, and so anybody who was participating scrambles. So I've actually never seen the police apprehend anybody from any of our 911 calls.
We actually want to break it up more than you want to arrest people, right? Don't you?
Of course.
You want to get them out of
Yeah,
there.
yeah, our goal isn't to put people out of business, to arrest people. Our goal is just to have a peaceful block and neighborhood. And, like my neighbor Caitlin said, we're good neighbors. We just want to have a good neighborhood and continue that. And so we just need everybody to, be on board with that.
Now, are you, just so I understand, I'm an old man, so I don't really, this is called gaming, but this is not because there is a Ravens game or an Orioles game or something like that. It's just before they go into the restaurant they're
Yeah,
doing this?
it's just a kind of a term that probably came from pre-gaming before a Ravens game or something. But no, this happens pretty consistently just on the weekends before going into the restaurant and
Let
coming
me ask
out.
Mr. Wallman again if he has any questions on that issue.
I have no questions at this time,
Okay.
thank you.
Who wants to talk?
About the pre and post gaming?
I'm sorry, did you have
Can I just
a?
add one more thing?
Yeah, go
about the
ahead.
Pre and post gaming, I'm sorry. Just to give a specific example about how dangerous this is, because trust me, I like to pre and post game with the best of them, and you normally don't mind a little extra fun, but I watched a family come out of Poppy's, get in their car, grab fireworks in front of our house, continue to drink in their car, and then shoot off bottle rockets at the highway. And when I went to go talk to them and say, this is unsafe, can you please throw away your trash, I was met with a lot of pushback. They seemed to be intoxicated, which, one, is not good that they're driving, and two, shooting off fireworks into the highways, really dangerous. So I just wanted to add that specific example.
Any questions of her? Okay. Who wants to talk about the reckless stunt driving?
Back to me. Okay, we have issues on our block because of how, I think it's how our block is laid out. We're the very last block of Light Street. And so our block is, there's a large commercial parking lot there, and it backs against train tracks. So it's, I guess, considered a good place to start. So we'll have people gather to watch, and also cars that will start drag racing down Light Street. And again, we're in a residential neighborhood, so every cross street has a stop sign.
Let me just ask you, how do you connect them to this licensee?
Folks come out of the restaurant.
And then get in their cars and start driving?
Yeah, we've seen that. Yeah. And similarly, we've had donuts outside of our house, so people, just circling around outside of the house at a very high speed, which of course is also very dangerous.
Are they all coming from this restaurant?
Yeah.
You said there are 3 restaurants there.
Yes.
Nobody misbehaves from the other restaurants?
We have not had issues with the other restaurants, no.
Is this a younger crowd or something? Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But we didn't have the issues before. And we do often, because I think, this restaurant draws a lot of people from the region. I mean, we've spoken to people, who are really excited to go into the restaurant. They're coming from Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York, even. So they're excited to go into the restaurant. This restaurant draws a really big crowd. They have a huge Instagram following. And so it's bringing people in, which is fine, except there's no space for all the parking and driving. And then, it's just a lot of issues that have kind of resulted with more folks coming.
Questions on this issue? No questions. Okay. Lastly, the fight. Who wants to speak to the fight?
Fights?
And your name, sir?
My name is Nick Clarkson, Nick, and then Clarkson.
Okay.
I just wanted to add one more thing about the racing and everything. You asked sort of how we know. You said there's other restaurants on the block.
But you said that. I didn't know.
Or sorry, you asked how, there's other restaurants on the block. Well, those incidents occur at hours that only this restaurant is open. The other restaurants on the block close at a time that's earlier than these incidents
So
happen.
tell me the times. When do the other restaurants close?
9 or 10?
9 or 10 off the top of my
And
head.
this is open till when?
Midnight on the weekends.
And during the week?
I think 11 off the top of my head. But yeah, mainly it's just the incident. What'd you say? Okay. So yeah, I'll talk about the fighting. Specifically an incident on March 4th. And I do have video. I don't know how to handle that specifically with an iPad, but I can just pass it around. But specifically, I live on 1930 Light Street. I left my house to go walk my dog at Riverside Park, which is basically up Wells Street, and then you make a left, and then it's Riverside Park. On my way there, I was crossing Wells Street, and there was a noticeable arguing occurring outside Poppy Cuisine, so much so that, like I said, it was noticeable. So I very much noticed it. I saw who was arguing. I even passed 2 of our neighbors who are not here today, Michelle and Becca. I believe they're on the original complaint. And they also submitted a complaint that mentioned that they noticed this as well. But I went to the park with my dog. And on the way back, as I'm entering the house, there is a large group of women out in our parking lot arguing, very high volume, and again, very noticeable. It doesn't get physical at that point, but by the time I go inside, and again, I have the video of this, there are punches being thrown by the ladies that are arguing, multiple punches being thrown. This is going on for a solid 10 minutes, like very loud arguing, and eventually, this led to multiple 911 calls from our block. As Pam pointed out, it was eventually broken up because I have that Citizen app that she noticed, and as soon as I got the notification, the group dispersed. So I just wanted to,
So is what you're telling me is the same incident that Michelle and Becca complained about? This March 4th incident?
Yes, but I'm corroborating that, and I also
Yeah.
have video if necessary to show of the actual physical altercation.
So, okay. So this is one time that this occurred?
Yes.
Okay. And police were called, you said?
The police were called.
Did they break it up?
Before they could get there, it was broken up on the lady's own account. They departed, so.
Okay. Interesting that can't have women at your place, apparently. They just I'm teasing. So, okay.
Well, I don't know if that's the point. I know.
I understand the
yeah.
point. I was just making a bad joke. I apologize.
No apologies. I think the point, though, that we're really trying to drive.
Get in front of the mic.
The point that we're really trying to drive home is, we watch a fight start at Poppy's and then carry on to our neighborhood, and then by the time it gets in front of our houses, you have cars driving up, and you have a crowd of 10 or so people, and we have babies that sleep right there. We have infants that their nurseries are in the front of the homes, and that's happening right outside.
So you said it started in front of
Yes.
Poppy's and moved down?
Yes, so as I was crossing Wells Street, like I said, I noticed that there was arguing occurring in front of Poppy's down the
Okay.
street. So that's how I knew it was the same group, because the outfits were the exact same. That's how I knew it was the same group, coming from there and spilling over into our block.
Did you see them come out of Poppy's, or just it started in front of Poppy's?
I didn't see them come out, but
Okay.
yeah, I assumed that they had been attending an event or something there, so.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Wallman, do you have any questions on this incident? No? Okay. Okay. Have we covered the specific issues that you've raised?
I believe so, yes.
All right. You want to be heard, Mr. Wallman? Or put on evidence?
Yes, good afternoon, or excuse me, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the
Still
board.
morning.
My name is Joe Woolman. I represent the licensee. I do want to make it clear, I don't represent the operator. We do have representatives from the operator present. If you have questions for them, here's my card for the spelling.
Well, who runs the place?
Poppy's under a management agreement. And I'll give you a little bit of status as to the license itself. We were actually here last week for a hardship extension on a transfer that was granted back in March. We've run into a lot of administrative issues with the comptroller's office, et cetera. That transfer should be completed literally any week now. My client is actually the owner of the building there, the apartment building. I got involved in this case originally because I handled the rezoning for the developer of that building. And I have a representative from that corporation here with me today, Mr. Alessi, who's right to my right.
Let me be clear about something. So, Mr. Stivelman is transferring the license to a new owner, right?
Correct.
Will the same company be operating it?
The same, we will still have a management agreement with Poppy's, but what we would like to do, and the letter from the SBNA indicates this, and we've been, I believe I also submitted an email from the councilman's office and his chief of staff. We would like to get this transfer completed, obviously sooner than later, to the corporate entity that controls the real estate there. We would then like to work very closely with the SBNA towards an MOU. I've had meetings with Ms. McNulty, who's the signatory on that letter. We're kind of a little bit cart before the horse here in the sense that the transfer has not been completed yet. That's why we got the hardship extension last week. Once that is completed, we do absolutely intend to work closely with the neighborhood on another MOU.
I mean, interrupt you, Mr. Wallman.
That's right.
When do you think the transfer is going to be effective?
As soon as we can clear up this issue with the comptroller's office, it should be completed. Everything else has been
So we
submitted.
talking days, weeks, months?
I'm hoping weeks. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver on days, but it could be days.
The conversations you've had with Ms. McNulty, do they address these 5 issues that the neighbors have brought before us?
Well, we offered to meet with the neighbors. There was a meeting recently at, I think it was AJ's on Hanover, I'm not sure the establishment, and I asked to come to that meeting and speak to the neighbors, but we were told they didn't want to speak to us till after this hearing today, which I certainly understand that. We'd still like to work with the individual neighbors and the association, perhaps more importantly, towards an MOU. Regarding these 5 complaints, I'll just briefly state for the record from a legal perspective and a statutory perspective, I think they're all outside the scope of the statute that covers protests. The complaints are mostly about things that are taking place in the public realm. They may be somehow indirectly related to the operation, but I haven't heard any specific complaints about the operation of the licensed premises
So the
itself.
problem is that they wouldn't occur but for the operation.
That's the allegation. I don't believe there's been any evidence or testimony induced today about the actual operation of the restaurant. There's some things taking place after the fact. To hold the operator responsible, I think is a bit of a stretch. I certainly understand. I live in this neighborhood, actually. Maybe I shouldn't state that publicly. I live a few blocks away, and I certainly understand and appreciate the concerns of the neighborhood. A lot of them may seem to me relate to the public safety issues, police issues, DOT issues. As far as parking is concerned, zoning issues, and as you mentioned, or as actually the Deputy Executive Secretary mentioned, zoning issues are not part of this proceeding. Those are all things that are, I think, again, outside of the scope of grounds for the protest. That being said, we recognize there are problems, and that's why, if you look at the email from the councilman's office, I have met with Ms. McNulty and representative from the councilman's office several times. I've offered to meet and speak to these individuals as well. We certainly intend to continue that dialogue, and once we do get the license transferred, then I and my client, and again, I don't represent the operator, I and my client as the licensee can enter into an ironclad MOU, which we'll obviously bring to the board.
So they've only had, your current client has only had this license for a year, right?
Correct. And he is Mr. Stievelman, who's not here. He's our city resident as part of the organization, but he was placed as the contract purchaser representative of this corporate entity for the purposes of filing and getting the transfer approved, which was approved last March. It's definitely been drawn out a bit from an administrative perspective, and we regret the license transfer not being completed before the renewal period, but that is where we are. I do think once it is transferred, we'll have a great opportunity to
Obviously, you
address
need the
these.
renewal in order to transfer it.
Correct.
Suppose we were to indicate that we would renew on the condition that an MOU be placed on this license and that at least address these issues that have been raised by the community.
I think it's a fantastic idea. For the record, months ago, I offered that solution to SBNA, and I think there was some disconnect. I tried to explain the situation, but they wanted to execute an MOU with the current licensee, which was the old Minnow restaurant that went out of business. The license is being transferred from. Now we do have the contract purchaser in place, and perhaps that will, and your order would convince them to work with us now. They do understand that once the transfer takes place, if you look at that last sentence of the SBNA letter, which I think I highlighted in what I submitted in advance of this hearing, once that transfer is completed, they absolutely intend to work with us on the MOU. If you would like to place a condition that the renewal be conditioned on them working with us, I think that would definitely bring everybody to the table so we could get this done.
Let me ask, where are my protesters? Can one of you come up, because I get blocked by these things. So I just want to be clear on who's authorized to negotiate. So are you all satisfied that Ms. McNulty would involve you in any such negotiations?
That is not something we have discussed, the 10 protesters or the other members of our block. I think we should have a representative from the 1900 block of Light Street in attendance at these meetings regarding the MOU. However, I do recognize that we don't have authority to enter into an MOU with the owner and operator.
Well, I don't think the board would have any objection to you all participating. It's going to have to be an agreement between the owner and operator and the organization that is in that community, or else we don't have any way to monitor it. We can't have, the one person who lives on the 15th floor of one place being in control of everything.
Understood. I want to be careful with what I say because I'm not on the board of the SBNA. Pam and I are members, however, we don't have any decision-making authority there.
But you know Ms. McNulty?
I do not personally, Pam does.
Do you think you can work with her? Okay. Let me ask the commissioners if they have any questions before I go any further with this.
No question.
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay, so, Mr. Woolman, what I'm going to recommend to the commission is that that we do allow the license to be renewed for this year with the understanding that it's going to be transferred imminently, and with the understanding that you're going to undertake negotiations with Ms. McNulty's group and with a representative from the protesters. And I think I'm going to ask that Matt from our organization be involved as well, so he can report back to us. We have a community liaison individual who can do that. Going to put a 60-day time limit on it after the transfer of the license that we see in MOU, and that the new licensee agreed that the terms of that MOU will be binding to the extent they're enforceable by law. And with that understanding, if we can get that from you, I would vote to renew the license today.
We're certainly willing to comply
Other
with those
commissioners,
conditions.
I don't know.
Yes.
No, I'm good.
I agree.
And we're willing to
I
comply
vote
with those
to-
conditions. Thank you.
Okay.
May I ask a point of clarification?
Yes, I can't see you because of this thing.
I'm so sorry. If a MOU is not signed or agreed on within 60 days of the transfer,
Come back in, raise a complaint, we'll bring them back in here, we'll find out what's going on.
okay, hopefully that won't happen.
Hopefully it
We'll
won't
work on
happen
it.
because I think they know that I would not be very happy about that.
We want to keep you happy.
Thank you. All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Like all exhibits for the record, what is it, 1, photos, 2, letter from South Baltimore Neighborhood Association dated 3/28/24, 3, email from Chief of Staff of Councilman Costello's office dated April 23rd, 24.
Thank you, everybody, who participated in this, and I hope you can get this resolved.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the next case is not scheduled till 10:45.
Okay. Yeah, let's find out if they're here, though.
The next case is not scheduled to begin till 10:45. For those who are here for that case, the Joyce Young, 316 to 318 Guilford Avenue, iconic assembly room, could you just raise your hands, please?
I think we can get started then.
You
And then
think-
if people come in the next 5 minutes, we'll
Yeah,
hear from them, okay?
Sir, Doug is saying that this has been a point
No,
of,
we can't do
this
it.
has been an issue in the
All
past,
right, we'll wait. We'll be back in 10:45.
just in case.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks.
sir.
Doug is wiser than I.
Yeah, all of us, yes.
Okay.
Step down.
We can, at least a decent lawyer.
We are going to call the next case.
Before you do
Yes,
that,
sir.
Michelle, may we?
Yes.
I want to go back to the first case. Okay, so on the record, just to be clear, I had voted to approve the renewal of the license for 2 East Wells Street, Suite 116, with the specific condition that it would enter into an MOU with the local organization, the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association, and with representatives from the petitioners in that case, and that the terms of that MOU be binding within, to the extent they're enforceable by law, and that it be executed within 60 days of the transfer of the license. That was my position, and the other commissioners need to vote on that.
Yes, based on materials, petition letter and petitioners, I vote to approve the renewal of the license subject to the MOU with the Community Association licensee with a term of 50-day limit.
I vote to allow the license to be renewed also with the conditions of undertaking negotiations with the community liaison and the community to create an MOU within 60 days, and as long as they agree that the MOU be binding to the extent that's enforceable by law.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wurzburg, you can go on to the next case. I just wanted to clarify for the record.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're getting ready to begin the protest of renewal for Joyce Young, 316 to 318 Guilford Avenue, trading as Iconic Assembly Room. They have a Class B beer, wine, and liquor arena license. All those who wish to participate in this case, please do come forward.
Yeah. Anyone who wants to offer testimony, please come up forward now. Raise your right hands. Even if you're just going to say yes to something, please raise your right hand. Okay, thank you.
Raise your right hand, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And same instructions if you were here before and heard, if you speak at all, please state your name and then spell it.
Yeah, please come up to the microphone when you speak, give us your name first, and make sure that the reporter has the spelling of your name, and then we'll go ahead, okay? So this protest was filed by, am I correct, Fernando Pineda? Is he present? Okay. Are you going to speak on this, or are you, ma'am?
Well, I will proffer for the residents.
Oh, I didn't know you were counsel for them?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
can you tell us your name, please?
Good morning, Your Honor, Commissioners. My name is Denise Coe, an attorney with Community Law Center, and I am assisting Braco Condominium Association. And here with our clients also is Jennifer Prager, the community manager of 225 North Calvert Apartments. And both buildings are within 1 block of the establishment.
Actually, we haven't seen the Community Law Center here in some time.
It has been a while.
Good to have you back. Mr. Previs, you represent the licensee?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Peter Previs on behalf of the licensee, Joyce Young, who is to my immediate right, and Larry Young, the principal of the businesses to her right.
Good morning, everybody. So it seems to be one specific complaint about loud music. So where are we with this? Are you having any discussions about it?
Yes, Your Honor. We've penned an MOU that Ms. Coe has prepared and basically signed as is, other than name tweaks. Ms. Tracy Stafford is the day-to-day operations manager. Unfortunately, fortunately for her, she's had a long-planned trip to Thailand for her anniversary, and she won't be back until Friday. But her name, cell phone is all been provided in the MOU. Mr. Panetta is very active and within a block of the establishment. And what I was going to suggest is that we do a sound test with Mr. Panetta present and mark the levels to make sure there's no issues. Ms. Coe advised me that the level was somewhat high this weekend. I don't know that Ms. Stafford was on top of things at that point, but we do want to make sure that we are vigilant. That
If you're going to test it, you probably should test it on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Not on a Monday morning.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So I do have with me the signed MOU, and it was just within the last 24 hours.
So-
The parties have agreed to have it attached to the license.
And it will be, the terms will be binding to the extent they're enforceable by law. Is that
Yes, Your
correct?
Honor.
Everybody agrees to that?
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
And Ms. Coe, your clients are all satisfied that if this is made part of the license, that the license can be renewed?
Well, the problem is that just this past weekend, Mr. Previs mentioned it, but while this MOU was in the process of being signed, the decibel readings were far exceeding the noise ordinance. And so there is a major concern that we'll just be back here in a year.
Oh, it won't be a year. If they violate your agreement, you can bring them right back.
I think the community would like me to summarize for you what brought them here today, just so it's on the record.
That's fine. And I just want to say, for their sake, that they've had the license for almost 2 years, and they don't have a history of violations. So, although I know there have been 311 calls about the noise, so.
Well, the rooftop extension was just given this past September.
Right.
There have been many, many instances of decibel readings and noise violations. And so that's literally all that's really in this MOU, is just that one point over noise.
Okay. Can you step up to the microphone and you can give us the summary that you wanted to give?
Yeah, sure. So this past September, this was September 21st, 2023, this licensee had requested an expansion to their rooftop, and some of these residents of Braco had expressed their problems at that time that were already being experienced through the loudspeakers on this rooftop, and they were far exceeding the noise ordinance for this zone, which is commercial. It's set to 61 decibels per Health Code 9206. And so that hearing had ended in September with this board directing the parties to enter into an MOU, and the expansion was granted. The noise problems continued, and we had submitted some decibel readings. There was one in October showing 76 decibels. And when we're talking about decibel readings that are 10 decibels above what's legally allowed, we're talking about actually a 10-fold increase, 10 times the loudness of what's legally allowed, because it is measured on a logarithmic scale. There have been many attempts to contact Ms. Stafford, who is the establishment manager, and none of those conversations have resulted in any meaningful change. And so while we are very encouraged that at this last minute we do have a signed MOU over the noise, and so those decibel limits are set, there will be some sound checks at the actual rooftop, and there will be a change to the agreements that they have with their customers or anyone using their rooftop speakers, so that they're aware that they're supposed to stay within, the decibel limits.
And is there a mechanism for them to test that while they're operating?
So there is, and Dr. Panetta can speak to the actual decibel reader that is available for anybody.
I don't really need to know. I just want to make sure that they can test it
Yeah.
and comply.
Yeah.
Because I won't understand what he tells me
Yes.
otherwise. I just want to point out to you, you all signed this agreement and dated it, but at the beginning of it, there's no date.
Yeah, we do need
So-
to fill that in. Literally, we're just printing it and bringing it in,
Yeah,
so we can all just add in today's date because
Today is
that's
26th, 25th.
25th. Everybody else signed it yesterday, apparently. Okay.
Do you want us to sign that?
If we could
No,
add
no,
it.
We can do it now.
just whatever one you file with the board ought to be signed, that's all.
So
mean, dated.
we should submit it to you electronically, a scan. Is that the best way to do this?
That's my
That's
staff.
fine. We need to have a copy of it before the licensee picks up the renewal then, if that's how the board so deems.
Should I email it to you, Ms. Wurzberger?
You can, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything further?
I believe that's what we wanted to have on the record.
Okay. So everyone's satisfied then that with the MOU and with the ongoing readings and compliance, that the license can be renewed?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then, on the basis of what's been proffered to us, I would vote to renew the license for this iconic assembly room at 316-18 Guilford Avenue for the upcoming year, subject to the terms of the memorandum of understanding entered into today between the Council of Unit Owners of the Breco condominium and 316-18 Guilford Avenue and related liquor license. The terms being made a part of their license and to the extent they're enforceable by law. And also with the understanding that there will be continued readings of the decibel levels to bring them in compliance with the terms of the MOU. Commissioners?
Yes, based on materials, the petition letter and the petition, I also vote to approve the renewal of the license subject to the MOU of both parties as part of the license. So, yes, I vote for the renewal of the license.
I also vote to allow this license to be renewed based on the MOU that was signed today as binding to the extent enforceable by law. I did have one question. I haven't seen the MOU. Did you guys discuss sound barriers or anything for the rooftop yet? That may help with the decibels?
I don't think there's anything specific, and we have decibel limits, which is basically, it's in the C5 zone, and the 61 is the max for the C5 zone, and then there's a limitation of two or three decibels.
Is it 65 or
at night.
61? I heard her.
61.
61, I missed that, I'm
61.
sorry.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's probably going to be a work in progress as far as what would need to be done to.
Yeah, that may be something that
We
would be
start
helpful.
Start with the volume and then figure out the subwoofers, because that's, I play in a band and I don't
It's
even like
the- it's the
those.
low frequency
It's the
sounds.
low that drives people crazy, and probably some education to the DJs of not overdoing the subwoofers, and then whatever sound barriers that we can go
Okay.
from there.
All right, thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Curtis.
Do you need?
Yes.
this-
I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, letter from neighbor Fernando Pineda. 2, service request summaries. 3, draft MOU.
All right, thank you. Good luck, folks. I hope you can resolve
so much.
your issues.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And Ms. Wurzberger, before you call the last case, I'm going to recuse myself from that case, and I'll turn it over to the other commissioners.
And actually, so we're going to stand in recess for a little bit. The next case is not scheduled to begin till 11:30.
Oh, okay.
The court reporter wants